Tina had never wanted to end up in a place like this, but after her roommate bailed and rent doubled, she was out of options. It led her to a motel 40 minutes outside the city limits, between desert and coast, where the highway split and left behind only dust and salt air. The motel itself was a long, two-story building, pale beige, almost yellowed with age. Ugly brown doors lined both floors, with gold metal room numbers and a single rusting stairway on the east end near the small office. Tina moved into room 14. It wasn't much. Faded carpet, a dusty ceiling fan, a kitchenette with a cracked counter, but it was cheap and she could afford to breathe here. She worked full-time as a retail clerk at a store 30 minutes away. It was better than the 50 minutes she used to have to drive to work. She spent her evenings watching TV, sketching, or flipping through her collection of cassette tapes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. Until her first Friday night. It was just after 7:45 p.m. when Tina pulled into the gravel lot after a long work week. She carried 2 bags of groceries and a 6-pack of beer up the creaking stairway. As she reached the bend of the steps, she paused. 2 men stood at the far end of the second-floor hallway, just outside room 20. They didn't move. All the rooms upstairs were vacant, besides room 2 and 14 where Tina lived, and apparently room 20 where these 2 weird men were standing. The sun had just set at about 7:50 p.m. The men, tall, pale, and dressed identically in tucked-in striped shirts and dark jeans, both wore black boots, sunglasses, and brimmed hats, despite the sun being set. Their skin almost glowed in the dim light. They didn't smile. They didn't nod. They just watched Tina hurry to her door, fumbling with her key and groceries. Once inside, she locked the deadbolt, heart thumping. She peeked through the blinds. The 2 men were gone. At 8:10 p.m., she picked up the phone and called the front desk.
Yeah, hello?
Hi, this is Tina from room 14. I just saw 2 men standing at the end of the hall near room 20. They were just standing there, staring. It felt really off. Have you ever seen them before?
The front desk woman, Eleanor, replied casually,
They live here. They signed the lease about a month ago. They're pretty quiet, but they haven't missed a payment yet, so I can't complain. But I'm surprised you've seen them, because I've only seen them about twice. Honey, if they creep you out, just try to avoid them.
Later that night, Tina watches the front desk lady leave from her upstairs window. Since moving in, she's seen only 2 other guests. A woman in her 30s with 1 kid and an elderly black woman in room 2. Tina signed a 6-month lease because the first month was half off. She was told by Eleanor that if they didn't get more business, the owners were going to try to sell the complex. The place was a bit out of town with not many stores close by. Nothing had happened the rest of that night or the rest of that week. She hadn't seen them again. One week after her first month, a guest came in to rent a hotel room for a few nights. A man around her age checked in, a young traveler with short hair and a kind smile. Tina noticed him briefly as he passed by. Minutes after she got settled in with a beer, there was a knock at her door. It gave her the chills as she was not expecting anyone and hadn't thought about those creepy twins now for a few weeks. She looks through the window and it's that guy from earlier. She opens the door partly excited, and the man introduced himself as Troy and asked if she'd like to hang out. He had beer and a joint. Tina hesitated, then agreed. She figured it's been a while since she hung out with anybody. And what better time than now with a good-looking guy? They proceed to talk and get to know each other a bit while sharing some beers. They eventually start smoking the joint while the TV is on in the background during the midnight special music hour. They're laughing and giggling as she hears a loud thump coming from room 16, the next door over. Tina froze.
No one's supposed to be in there.
She whispered. She wonders if Miss Eleanor had signed a lease on room 16. But Eleanor would always fill out the bottom rooms. She didn't like hiking the stairs. Tina knew there was definitely more rooms downstairs for rent, which made the sound next door ever so suspicious. She half explains this to Troy, but he's more interested in the Led Zeppelin cassette tape he noticed in Tina's tape collection. They continue smoking while the music is playing softly in the background. She gets up to turn off the TV when she hears another loud thump sound coming from room 16 on the other side of the wall to her bedroom. She starts to chat with Troy about how weird and creepy it is. She asks him how long he's staying there. He tells her he's only staying for 2 nights and he has to leave Sunday since he's on a work-related trip. She gets a bit closer to him as they finish up the joint. Moments later, Troy jumps up and says he forgot his cigarettes in his room and he's gonna go get them and come back. She locks the door behind him. Before she can sit down, she hears a knock at the door. 4 light knocks and the door handle jiggles. She thinks to herself he couldn't be back that fast, unless maybe he forgot his key. She peeks through the blinds and shivers streak down her spine. No one's there. She quickly moves to turn the kitchen light and hallway lights on. She waits patiently on the sofa for what seems like forever. Finally, she gets 3 hard knocks on the door. She runs over to peek, and it's Troy. She unlocks the door and lets him in quick. Before she can tell him the creepy event that took place, he speaks over her.
Who were those creepy guys down the hall?
Her heart drops.
Wait, you saw them?
Yeah, they were just standing together, side by side, staring at me. I waved at them, but they just stood there.
She runs over to the window and peeks out at the far end so she could see down the hallway. No one was there. She begins to tell Troy how creepy they are, and as soon as he left, she got a knock on the door and they tried to open it, or at least she assumes it was them, but nobody was there, and she didn't hear them. She pleads with him to stay over and to not leave on Sunday. He agrees to staying over, but explains why he has to leave Sunday. He gives her a number for his work office that he's at most days. He tells her he can come back for another 2 nights in a few weeks when he's finished with his out-of-town gig. In the moment, she's just happy to have the company and dreading when Troy leaves. The rest of the night, she doesn't hear anything from room 16 or have any other experiences. She falls asleep with Troy by her side. Later, she wakes up to the sound of Troy grabbing his keys. He says he needs to go into town to grab some food since Tina's fridge was empty. She wants to go with him, but decides she'll shower and get ready for the day while Troy is in town. She asks him to get some eggs, bread, and cinnamon so she can make French toast. She offers to give him some money, but he declines, insisting that he will pay for it. He says he'll pick up a movie for them to watch later.
Something scary.
She chuckles, thinking back to the events of last night.
Hey, hurry back, please.
Troy leaves and Tina proceeds to take her shower. While showering, she hears something fall again in room 16, almost like a bowling ball hitting the floor on the other side of her wall. She's immediately spooked. She hurries through blow-drying her hair and putting some makeup on. She hears shuffling in room 16. She feels uneasy. She thinks to herself, there's no way Eleanor filled out all the rooms up to 16. The place is never busy. Nobody ever really stops here. Maybe 1 or 2 guests a week and all downstairs. Tina grabbed her purse and peeked carefully out the front window. Seeing the coast was clear, she hurried downstairs. Miss Garbetta, the elderly black woman who lived in room 2, was outside her door in a nightgown, smoking a cigarette near the far end of the balcony. Tina said hi and looked back to room 20 and decided to talk to Garbetta about the twins. Garbetta was hard of hearing and seemed a little off. She mentioned she had seen them once or twice, but never anything suspicious. As Tina was walking away, Garbetta softly yelled back at Tina that one time she did hear a knock and nobody was there. She figured it was some kid staying at the hotel with their parents, playing tricks on her. Tina took note of it and added it to her internal creepy list. She proceeded to go to the front office and ask Ms. Eleanor about room 16. She tells her about hearing loud sounds and walking, shuffling coming from that room. Eleanor is immediately surprised and slightly angered because there shouldn't be anybody in that room. She strictly only rents out bottom floor rooms for guests, and lease signers get to choose any room upstairs. But she hadn't signed any leases for room 16. She gets up and grabs her big rattling keychain. She asks Tina if she would like to go with her, but Tina declines. She said she would prefer to wait in the office. Moments later, she can hear Eleanor slowly waddling down the stairs. When she comes back in the office, she is slightly annoyed and tells Tina the room is empty. She did a full sweep and it's vacant. Beds perfectly made, a little dusty, but nothing. She asks Tina if she's feeling okay or doing any drugs. Tina leaves the office slightly annoyed by Eleanor's remarks. As she leaves, she gives Eleanor a piece of her mind.
No, I'm not on drugs. I've heard loud sounds from that room now on multiple occasions, and those twins are creepy as fuck. Maybe I should get a gun because I don't feel safe, Eleanor.
Tina walks out in frustration. As she looks up towards her room, she notices one of the twins quickly move inside and shut the door. She's pacing back and forth, not feeling comfortable to go to her room. 30 minutes go by as Tina waits under the only tree on the property, providing just enough shade from the newly summer heat of June. Moments go by as Troy finally pulls back in. They're excited to see each other. Troy shows off the groceries he got and the 2 movies he rented for the night. Before he can finish, Tina explains that she heard more sounds from room 16 and that Eleanor checked the room, but it was empty. Troy calms her as they go up to her room. She proceeds to make French toast and coffee. After about an hour, she tells Troy she wants to go do something, get away from the motel. Troy mentions an antique thrift shop in town. Tina gets excited and says she'll drive. They eventually get to the thrift store, enjoying their time looking around and entertaining themselves with all the unique thrifts. Tina finds a unique old-style lamp and some old vintage playing cards. Troy suggests games they could play with them. As they're finishing up their stay at the store, Tina notices something outside the front window, something she didn't expect to see. It's the twins. They're walking into the hardware store on the other side of the strip mall. She sees them from the back, but she's sure it's them. They're walking side by side in tandem. She whispers to Troy, but by the time he turned, they had vanished inside. Against her better judgment, they waited. She watched like a hawk until Troy insisted on going inside to confirm it was them. They go and pay for their stuff. She feels uneasy the whole time. As they get outside, they put their stuff in the car. She never took her eyes off the hardware store, just waiting to see if they came out. She doesn't think they drove because there's only 2 cars at the hotel that she recognizes. The downstairs lady with her kid and Eleanor's car. However, she remembers that there's a bus stop a block away, and the bus comes 3 times a day down there. Maybe the twins took the bus. Troy tries to convince them to go in the hardware store. Tina declines. Troy suggests he goes in by himself. They get into Tina's car and she drives her car down the strip mall to the laundromat 6 stores away. She backs into the parking spot to maintain a clear view. She watches Troy enter the hardware store. About 15 minutes go by, and she sees the twins come out. She ducks down in her car while watching them. One has a bag in his right arm while the other has a bag in his left arm. They walk straight out. They walk all the way down out of the strip mall and behind a building on the corner towards what she assumes is the bus stop. Troy comes out moments later and walks straight to Tina's car. As he gets in, he explains how creepy they were. He got a close peek at them from another aisle. He explained how pale their skin was. He heard one of them speak in a low, deliberate voice. One had bleach and nails. The other had acetone and a bunch of cleaning rags, along with a bundle of rope. Extremely weird and alarming. Troy pulled out a brand new knife from the hardware store bag, a nice-sized all-purpose knife with a plastic sheath. He handed it to Tina and said,
I want you to have this. It's good to have protection in your house, and I notice you don't have any kitchen knives.
She takes it reluctantly. She explains where the twins walked, and Troy suggests they drive by to see where they went. Tina drives out the strip mall, then south down the street, past the mechanic's shop that was blocking her view. On the other side of the street is a gas station and a bus stop, and further down, a grocery store. She didn't remember seeing any bus come by since the transportation in this town was pretty bad, but she didn't see the twins at the bus stop. She thinks to herself, maybe they went to the grocery store. They stop at the gas station to pick up some more beer for their hangout session that Saturday night. She tells Troy how she's going to miss him as they get in the car to make the 30-minute drive back home. As they're getting close to the hotel, she notices two men walking in tandem, a block down from the hotel. It's them. They're walking from the bus stop, but she didn't see any bus drive past on her way back. This is the only road that takes you to the hotel, and the bus always does a U-turn from the hotel heading back into town. She's stunned. She confusingly explains the situation to Troy. He has no explanation. Neither of them do. It's impossible. How did they get here before them? It's about 6 p.m., and the sun is just above the distant mountains. As she pulls into the lot, the downstairs neighbor is getting a pizza dropped off. Tina quickly walks up to her and says,
Hi, I'm sorry to disturb you. I'm Tina, your upstairs neighbor. I don't mean to barge, but how long have you lived here before me?
As she's talking, the twins come around the corner, walking together slightly out of tandem, carrying their bags from the hardware store. Tina comments how strange they are, and if the lady had ever seen them before, since Eleanor told Tina they've been there before she moved in last month. The lady introduces herself as Rachel. She said her and her son moved in 2 months ago. She said she'd only seen the twins one other time. Tina didn't want to push, so she told the lady goodnight. The twins, still proceeding towards the staircase, suddenly stopped. One turned around and addressed Tina and Rachel.
Hello. If any of you would like to come over tonight, please stop by. We are in room 20 and would like some guests.
Tina and Rachel stood there quietly for a sec. He spoke in a monotone voice with no expression or smile. Rachel said,
No thanks, dear. You have a good night.
She gave Tina a look, then shut her door and locked it. Troy stood beside Tina and spoke for her.
No thanks, man. We got plans tonight. You enjoy your night, fellas.
Tina and Troy wait a moment, listening for them to get to their room before heading up the stairs. Tina was visibly shook and almost in tears, thinking to herself that she's going to be alone again come tomorrow when Troy leaves. Hours go by as Troy and Tina are relaxing and having some drinks. Around 9:30 p.m., Troy shows Tina a few of the movies he rented. His choices were between The Exorcist or The Wicker Man. Tina had heard that The Exorcist was very scary and disturbing, and she didn't want to have those thoughts while living alone. Troy puts The Wicker Man in. About halfway through the movie, Troy snuggles up to Tina. They're beginning to get intimate when they get a knock on the door. 4 knocks in quick succession. Troy decides he'll get up to check. As Troy looks through the window, it's one of the twins. Tina's heart drops.
Don't open the door.
4 more knocks are heard on the door. Troy says through the door,
Yeah, can I help you?
The pale twin responds in his monotone voice.
Would you like to come over? We would like some guests.
No, we're good. Have a good night, man.
Footsteps can be heard walking away, but not back to room 20. The twin walks further down the hallway, then down the stairs. Troy decides to peek out the door against Tina's will. He walks to the hallway balcony and looks over the ledge. He can see the one twin knocking on someone else's door, one of the travelers renting a hotel room for the night.
Would you like to come over? We would like some guests.
The middle-aged man responds,
What for? What are you doing?
We have drinks. We would just like some guests.
You got drinks, huh? I only have 2 beers left, so I guess I'll swing by.
Room 20, we have drinks.
I heard you the first time, bud. Give me a few minutes, I'll be right up.
The twin turns and walks back towards the stairs. Troy turns to go back inside, but is stunned in his tracks. The other twin is standing outside room 20, just looking forward with the same blank stare, wearing sunglasses at night. Troy tries not to make it obvious that he's spooked and goes inside, locking the door behind him. He explains everything that went down to Tina, and she's visibly shook. She asks Troy to cuddle with her under the blanket so they can watch the rest of the movie. Moments later, they hear footsteps go by Tina's door, down towards room 20. They pause the movie and listen in. They hear a knock on the door down the hall. Then they hear a door creak open, then shut. They continue watching the movie again, getting intimate with each other. Towards the end of the movie, there was a quiet section. They hear what sounds like a man screaming for a split second, but the sound was immediately cut off, as if something was put over his mouth right as he screamed. Tina asks Troy if he heard it. It definitely came from down the hall towards the twins' room. In fact, it has to be from their room since rooms 16 and 18 are unoccupied. Tina sits up and says,
Troy, what the fuck was that?
Troy just says he doesn't know, and they should go lay down in bed and try to get some rest. Tina was a little drunk and agrees. They go into her bedroom and lay down, both feeling the effects of a mostly fun night. Around 3 a.m., Tina's woken by a loud drop in the room next to her. The unoccupied room 16, the same sound, a loud thud and creaking. She wakes Troy to tell him, but he's too tired to care. She eventually falls back asleep. In the morning, Troy does his best to console Tina and apologizes that he can't stay. He tells her he'll be back in town in 2 weeks. He says keep the knife close and don't talk to those twins. He asks if she can take the movies back to the video store since he's heading out of town. She agrees and says she'll take them back later that day. They kiss goodbye and Troy goes on his way. Later in the afternoon, Tina gets ready to go to town to return the movies and pick up a few things from the grocery store. On her way out, Eleanor's checking the front office mail, and she's visibly upset, muttering stuff to herself. Tina checks on her to see if everything's okay.
Hi, honey. Oh, it's just I'm annoyed. The guy in room 7 was supposed to check out at 11 a.m. It's now 2 p.m., and I've knocked twice with no answer.
Tina notices the man's car is still in the parking lot.
Maybe he's had a long night.
Well, I'm gonna have to charge him for another night because I'm not supposed to be here past 4 p.m. on Sundays.
Tina gets in her car and heads into town. She gets goosebumps while driving away, thinking about that scream she heard last night, and then the movement in the vacant room 16 next to her. She felt as if Troy was an angel, sent to protect her the last few nights. But now she was alone again. She got back home around 5 p.m. The man's car from room 7 was gone, and so was Eleanor. She figures the man must have finally woke up and left. Sunday was an uneventful night. No sounds from room 16 or any knocks on her door. She woke up early and went into town for work. She got off work at 5 p.m. and decided to go to the video store to find something funny to rent to cheer herself up. After leaving the video store and waiting at a stoplight to make a turn, she thought she noticed the man's car from room 7. It was a distinct brown Volvo with a small yellow stripe going across the bottom. The same car that was parked out front of the motel. She could barely swallow when she noticed the 2 twins were inside, one driving while the other was in the passenger seat. Blank looks on their face, wearing the same hats and sunglasses. Against her better judgment, she switches lanes and turns in the opposite direction to follow them. They were driving north down Palm Boulevard. She follows for 5 minutes, keeping her distance. There's one stoplight. After that, the road connects to the 83, which is at the edge of town. Stretching out forward is miles of desert. She wasn't about to follow them way out there. She finds a place to pull over and watches the twins drive away north through the green light. She watches until they disappear, far down the road. She's shook. She doesn't want to go home, but she has no choice. Eventually, she gets home and sees her downstairs neighbor, Rachel. She asks if she can have a moment to talk. Tina begins to ask about the man that was in room 7 next to Rachel's, and how one of the creepy twins invited him to their room. She explains how they heard him knock on their door, and then a while later, they heard what sounded like a brief scream, but it was immediately cut off. Rachel tells her son to go inside and wait for her so she can talk to Tina more. Tina continues talking about the strange noises coming from the vacant room 16 and how Eleanor checked the room, but it was completely empty. She tells Rachel about the twin knocking on her door, wanting them to come over on multiple occasions, and the strangest thing, seeing them both drive the man's car out of town. She pleads with Rachel that she's worried and scared and asks for her phone number to call her in case of an emergency. Rachel agrees. She writes down her number for Tina. She's worried herself. She says she'll make sure that her and her son stay away from them and be sure to tell Tina if she notices anything unusual. Tina has a small sigh of relief and heads up to her room to unwind for the night. That Thursday night, 5 days after Troy had left, Tina was lying in bed, drowsy from stress and 2 beers, the knife he gave her tucked under her pillow. She hadn't seen the twins since Monday driving that man's car, but the feeling of being watched hadn't left. Her sleep came in shallow bursts. At some point deep in the night, Tina woke with a jolt, cold sweat clinging to her skin. Her room was dark, but moonlight illuminated the thin lines of her curtains. She wasn't sure what had woken her. Something was off. She was frozen in place. She couldn't move. Only her eyes can flick around the room. The lamp she left on is off. Her body is stuck, as if something heavy is sitting on her chest. She hears whispering from the wall next to her bed. Room 16. Then a soft creak. Her closet door slowly swings open on its own. The whispering grows louder, almost in a digital distortion, a layered voice, not human. She suddenly blacks out. When she opens her eyes, she's no longer in her room. She's standing inside room 20, but it's not furnished like the others. The walls are lined with strange silver insulation, almost like an industrial chamber. Odd metal tools hang from pegs on the walls. A steady red light pulses from the ceiling. The twins stand on either side of her, heads slightly tilted, watching her. Their faces are expressionless. One of them speaks, but the words are incomprehensible, garbled, as if spliced together from different languages. She stumbles backward and slams into something. It's the man from room 7. He's strapped to the wall, mouth covered, eyes wide with fear. Tina screams. Suddenly, she's back in her room, gasping, sitting upright in bed. Moonlight filters through the blinds. A nightmare? Her closet door is wide open. Her feet are filthy with dirt, and she just doesn't feel right. Moments later, loud knocks boomed at the front door. Not the same knock as before, not an invitation, a demand. She backed into the kitchen, trembling, phone in hand, only to find it dead, no dial tone. She ran to the front window and peeked through the curtain. One twin was standing at her front door, while the other was standing at door 20, just staring straight ahead. Then her deadbolt began to unlock. She screamed for them to go away at the top of her lungs. Then silence. She trembled in fear in the corner for the rest of the night with the knife in her hands. For the next few days, Tina doesn't sleep. She keeps the knife close at all times, attempts to sleep with the lights on, and doesn't leave the apartment unless absolutely necessary. On Wednesday night, she hears faint scratching coming from the wall behind her bed. Room 16. She moves to sleep on the couch. That night, she's woken again by the sound of her front door unlocking. She never left it unlocked. She grabs the knife and hides in the bathroom, crouched in the tub, holding her breath. Footsteps move through her apartment, slow, deliberate, circling the couch, entering her kitchen, pausing at the bathroom door. But the door never opens. After what feels like hours, silence returns. At dawn, she emerges. The front door is wide open. There's no sign of anyone. She grabs a backpack, her wallet, and her keys, and flees. She drives for hours in a daze, not stopping until she crosses the state line. She doesn't go back for the rest of her things. She doesn't even call Eleanor. About a month later, Troy gets a call at his office. It's Tina. She's safe, but shaken. She won't say where she is, just that she's far away. She won't even explain what happened, but she asks if he'll come see her. He agrees. They end up moving in together not long after. She never returns to that motel, and she never speaks of the twins again. But sometimes, when Troy wakes up at night, he finds Tina standing at the window, staring out at the empty street, whispering,
They never blink.